Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is Paris-Roubaix, the first women's edition of the race. It's going to be exciting, and there's action throughout all of today's race. Now, when the cameras come on with about 52 kilometers to go on section 12 of the cobblestone sections, it's going to be exciting right away. The race is 117 kilometers long, about 75 miles, and has 17 sections of cobblestones. Other than that, it's pancake flat, so there's no obstacles, right? Just 17 cobblestone sections. And it's muddy and wet out. It's dry sometimes on the top, muddy when we're talking about the left and the right side of the cobblestones. And of course, in most of the corners, it's going to be slippery and nasty on today's course. Now, there's a little bit of rainfall, but not enough to really soak the course. But what makes today's course really an obstacle and something difficult to deal with, each corner you have to arrive into, you have to predict right away if it's going to be wet inside so the riders can cut inside and then come back outside, or if they just have to stay on the center. If you have to stay on the center, remember, it's a lip up top there that'll come down like this and curve. And that degree of drop, as you're talking about to the left and the right side of the course, if that's wet, there's no way these tires will keep the riders up. So once you come off the crown of the cobblestones, right at that moment, you have to decide if you're going to let the bike go all the way into the left or right side of the dip of the cobblestones, because there's no way to keep it right on that angled edge of the crown of the cobblestones. So always going to be an exciting race today. Cameras, first off, they don't show us the whole race. We're coming in at 52 kilometers to go. That was a real bummer because we're talking Paris-Roubaix and it's the first editions for the women. That's going to be my last of the complaining, though, is for the camera guys coming on late, because the rest of the race is going to be exciting all the way from 52 kilometers to the finish line. Now, section 12, we enter, and right away there's a crash, and it's the newly world champion Balsamo that's caught up, and Ellen Van Dijk, who of course is the world time trial champion. So we're talking about the road race world champion and the time trial world champion already getting split off the front group of favorites. Lizzie Deignan is up the front for Trek Segafredo, and she has been solo for 20-30 kilometers already and has a minute and 50-second gap on all of the favorites behind. Now, we're going to see Kopecky, the Belgian rider. She's on the left side of the road. She's got her arm up. She's calling her car for some reason. And then her bike just takes a massive veer to the right. She goes all the way from the left side of the road to the right and just takes a rider out along with herself. She'll switch bikes with her teammate and then get back going, and we will see her again at the front, but not for too long. With 48 kilometers to go, there's 8 riders in the front group, 2 from Jumbo-Visma, Mariana Vos, and 2 Trek Segafredo riders, Longo Borghini and Audrey Cordon-Ragout. They're doing a fantastic job of just trying to kill any kind of movement, positive movement, of bringing back Lizzie Deignan who's up the road solo. 46 kilometers to go, we'll see Lizzie Deignan up there, and she'll have a slip of the back tire, but she'll get it back under control and keep solid on the bike. Always looking just fantastic composure and statue-like on the bike. Can't even tell if she's suffering, but she is flying on the pedals. Behind, just about at the same moment with about 46 kilometers to go still, it's Longo Borghini who crashes next for Trek Segafredo and holds up the group. Now, this is causing splits all over the place as there's crashes and they're coming back together. It's just chaos back there in the group of favorites, and never really organized chase at the front to bring back the Trek Segafredo rider. 45 kilometers to go. It's the world champion Balsamo who just slides out across the cobblestones in spectacular style. In front of her, the Belgian rider Kopecky will be held up and go down. Those two won't be able to get back up to the front group for the rest of the race. With 42 kilometers to go as they leave the cobblestone sections, it's a group of 7. Mariana Vos is the big favorite, the Jumbo-Visma rider, but she's got Trek Segafredo along for company, as Audrey Cordon-Ragout is just doing an amazing job for her teammate that's solo still up the front by 2 minutes. With 41 kilometers to go, it's the Italian rider Bastianelli who's on the front trying to pull, but no one will come through and work. This is a group of 7 favorites at the front with Mariana Vos in it, but no one is cohesive and working to try to help bring back Lizzie, who's flying up the road and just building up time. Now, from 41 kilometers to about 35 kilometers to go, the front group slow up, and the riders from behind will come back to make the group about 15 to 20 riders strong. Problem is, now the time gap has gone up from 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes, so Lizzie Deignan up front, she is just putting on a show for us fans on the couch. 33 kilometers to go. Now we'll see Emma Norsgaard, and she's covered in mud, so you know she's having a hard first edition of the Paris-Roubaix. Just a couple kilometers further up the road, it's Ellen Van Dijk and Lisa Longo Borghini who are sliding all over the road and getting dislodged from the group of favorites. Borghini's doing a fabulous job though, and Ellen Van Dijk will too. They'll find their way back up to the group of favorites before this Paris-Roubaix comes to a conclusion. After the two Trek Segafredo riders had a slide and lost the group, it's Jumbo-Visma jumping on the front for the legendary Marianne Vos, who's on flying form in today's Paris-Roubaix. The group will reform again, and the two Trek Segafredo riders will get back to the front with Ellen Van Dijk and Longo Borghini. And now we got 3 Jumbo-Visma riders up front, 3 Movistar riders, 3 Trek Segafredo riders, and don't forget is Lizzie Deignan, who's up the road solo. So Trek Segafredo have 4 riders still in today's Paris-Roubaix with a shot at the win. At 25 kilometers to go, Jumbo-Visma will lose 2 of their riders, and that's going to leave Marianne Vos solo in the front group of favorites. With the Section 5 coming up with just under 20 kilometers to go, it's Marianne Vos who lights up the field from the front. Now, as soon as she lost her 2 Jumbo-Visma teammates, she knew she had to do something to bring back Lizzie Deignan's lead up there, and now she's throwing an attack with 5 cobblestone sections left to go at today's race and only about 19 kilometers left of racing. Behind there's a spectacular crash with Ellen Van Dijk, the Trek Segafredo rider, but in front of her it was Longo Borghini, who was absolutely brilliant when they entered the 5th cobblestone section of today's race. Now, she's on the right side. Marianne Vos is on the left. She sees Marianne Vos accelerate. She'll slide from the right through the center and jump on to Marianne Vos's wheel. But Marianne Vos is putting on a show and opens up a gap on Longo Borghini. Now, when Marianne Vos attacked the group of favorites, Lizzie Deignan had about a 2-minute lead, and Marianne Vos is just drilling all of the corners on the cobblestone and riding fast. She's gaining time on Lizzie Deignan, the Trek Segafredo rider, and just looks like this Paris-Roubaix is going to be a nail-biter all the way down until we enter the velodrome. Lisa Longo Borghini will slip up in one of the corners about 3 kilometers later, and that will finally distance Marianne Vos from the Trek Segafredo rider that you know if Longo Borghini had attached on the Marianne Vos, if she could have just closed that 5-10 second gap up there to Vos, that she would have had a free ride and a shot at winning today's Paris-Roubaix. But it wasn't going to be once she slipped up and had to pull her left foot out of the pedal. That opens the gap. Vos has got a free ride card now, all the way to go as hard as she can to bring back Lizzie Deignan, who's still up the road in the statue-like figure. She looks brilliant on the bike. Every corner, she was picking the turns absolutely brilliant. The wet ones staying on the top crown of the cobblestones. Whenever it was dry and she could cut the corners, she was doing it. And now she knows she has Vos chasing her, the Jumbo-Visma rider, and Lizzie Deignan still does not even show any kind of composure, failure, or drop or suffering at any moment throughout this point. But the time gap is dropping down fast. With 10 kilometers to go, the gap is at 1 minute and 15 seconds. With 4 kilometers to go, she's still holding on. But this was the first time I had really seen a pain and suffering expression on her face. And she just dug deep, pushed hard on the pedals, entered the velodrome solo. An amazing style, because now we know she's going to get to celebrate. She has over a minute and 20 second gap. She'll do the final lap of the velodrome and salute the crowds all the way to the line and give us all a fantastic victory at the first edition of the Women's Paris-Roubaix. Behind in second place, Marianne Vos did a great job, but just could not close the 2-minute gap up to the Trek Segafredo rider. Longo Borghini holds on to round out the podium for third. Lisa Brunauer, the German rider, almost caught Longo Borghini just at the line. She'll get fourth. In the field sprint, Bastianelli will win the sprint for fifth. She did a fabulous ride. Bastianelli, your tactics in today's race and strength and force were absolutely amazing. I loved watching your race. Congratulations for your 5th on the stage. All the women in the first edition of Paris-Roubaix, congratulations for taking part. The girls who crashed multiple times, Ellen Van Dyke, I hope you're okay. I saw you go down at least 2 or 3 times in today's race, and I didn't even get to watch the first half. It might have been more like 4 or 5. It was spectacular racing at the first edition of the Paris-Roubaix for the women. Now, I want to go back to about 41 kilometers in the race because I think this is the butterfly effect at this moment. When this 7-rider group decided not to work together and wait for the riders behind. I agree with the tactics. I'm 50-50, so I'm not arguing with it. But at that moment, when the time gap up to Lizzie Deignan was only at 2 minutes, when they decided to not work well together with that group of 7 and wait for a group from behind to catch up, all of a sudden that time grew up to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's got to be the butterfly effect, is that group of 7 not working well together. Now, you know Audrey Cordon-Ragout, the Trek Segafredo rider, she wasn't going to work in there. But all the other riders had the chance of rotating through to try to bring back the time on Lizzie Deignan. But they chose to wait for the group behind, which I agree with. Now, I want to point out one more butterfly effect in today's Paris-Roubaix. It has to be the director sportif of Trek Segafredo, Ina Teutenberg. She's an ex-pro rider, has more than 200 victories throughout her career. I got the pleasure of being teammates with her in 2003 with Saturn. Her tactics are spot on. Today was absolutely a brilliant display from Trek Segafredo, going 1 and 3 in the race. And of course, having stellar support behind from Audrey Cordon-Ragout and Ellen Van Dyke. Now, one other thing I want to point out, because I talked about it yesterday on Beyond the Coverage, with Lizzie Deignan and Trek Segafredo, they broke the #1 rule. Congratulations. It was a perfect race to do that. You won in fantastic style, Lizzie Deignan. Welcome to the cobblestones, Lizzie Deignan. You got a fantastic trophy to take home with you. All the women were fantastic in today's race. Make sure you guys like and subscribe because tomorrow is the men's edition of Paris-Roubaix. So I'll see you guys real soon on the next edition of the Butterfly Effect.